Hi, welcome to Cubs in Culture for January 20th, 2018. Yes, I know it's actually the 19th. The thing is, my work schedule for the next 3 days is absolutely horrifying. And so it's absolutely important to me personally to keep doing these things so I don't fall out of the habit. So it's going to be a baseball thing. It looks like at least one casualty of the slow market is Ichiro, the legendary player I'll talk about in a couple of minutes. Some of his career stuff is heading back to Japan because he can't get a contract. I gotta say, this really... In any given year, you have about a third of the teams that are absolutely committed to competing. So for the next year, it's Astros, Dodgers, Nationals, Yankees, Cubs, Cardinals, etc. You have a third of the teams which are sort of in transition, or maybe just on the cusp of being really going for it, which would be like Mariners or Pirates or Angels. Well, Angels are sort of going for it, to no avail probably though. And then you have another third of the teams which are entirely trying to tank and not do well because of financial or generating draft picks. So Rays and Mariners, Rays and Marlins. In the Central, kind of the Reds. The Reds are a very weirdly run organization, etc. So like the thing about Ichiro is he's 44 years old. He has said that he wants to play professional baseball until he's 50. But he's also said, when he asked about his retirement, he's literally just said, I'll probably just die. So you gotta realize for Ichiro, he has been, I think it was 4 years old. Maybe it was 3 years old. Anyway, since a very young child, he has been doing baseball-related things. So like when he was a young child, he would get up with his father and play catch, and then field 20 grounders, then 25 balls, etc. And work on his swing. And so the thing about him in his swing is he's actually right-handed, but his father made him bat left-handed because it's 2 steps closer to first base. So that's sort of the character he is. Now, the thing is, because he's a 44-year-old, he really can't. He's still a competent player. And there certainly are roles he could fill out as a fourth outfielder or utility outfielder and pinch hitter. That's basically what he did from the Marlins. And at least for the first 2 years, he was absolutely perfect for that role. And he helped them positive WAR and everything. So it's very, very sad because I think a tanking team could use him just to get butts in the seats because he is such a legendary player. Okay, so let me quickly talk about why Ichiro was such a interesting player given the context of his history. So in baseball, there's 2 sort of big styles of play. There's small ball, which is you have hitters focus on making contact, but not necessarily driving the ball. So you're not really trying to hit doubles. You're just trying to get a hit. And you're certainly not trying to hit home runs, and so part of that is then you have to manufacture runs. So if you get a single on first, then you're probably going to try to steal second. If you're on first, you're going to do hit and runs. You're going to have double steals, triple steals, bunts, or safety squeezes. So if a guy's on third and another guy's on first, if you bunt it, it's virtually impossible if you bunt it correctly, it's virtually impossible to prevent that run from scoring, and that's a small ball thing. And small ball was a predominant style of play um, in the major leagues for, well, I don't know, until about 1960 ish. When you started to get more of the long ball stuff. And then Japan, small ball, and in Korea, small ball is still sort of the default mode because Japanese players as a whole don't have slugging numbers because they're smaller guys basically. Now long ball, of course, is to quote Earl Weaver, that you win a baseball game with pitching, defense, and the 3-run homer. So long ball is very much about looking for something to drive, and you don't really worry about striking out because you increase the number of home runs, etc. So it's about, you don't want to run into out, so you don't steal, you don't do safety squeezes, you don't do anything like that. You don't do hit and runs. Earl Weaver claimed to have never put a hit or run on in his entire career as a manager. I don't know if that's true, but that's sort of his style. So the thing is, around the year 2000, home runs took a huge jump from like 4,000 to over 5,000 a year, or maybe even a little bit stronger than that. And the reason for that is, of course, steroids, but it was also the long ball became sort of the predominant sort of style of play, that everyone became sort of adverse to. Small ball manufacturing runs is sort of the default strategy, so they only will do it when it absolutely, like if you're like today in for the Cubs generally speaking won't play small ball, but if they've been playing for 16 innings, then they'll try to manufacture a run, etc. So the thing is, when Ichiro himself is he's a high contact, high average hitter, and his slugging numbers aren't exactly they're not mediocre. He has plenty of doubles, but he doesn't have a lot of home runs. He has like 120, 123 or something like that. But he has over 600 steals, etc. So his swing is designed. And what he's been doing for years, and he's really good at it, is basically poking the ball into play and then just beating it out with speed. Yes, even though as a 44-year-old he can do this. Excuse me. So he was such a contrast because when he came over at 2000, 2001, it was right in the midst of it was right in the midst of Sammy Sosa, Mark McGwire, and all the other home run kings just slugging the hell out of Barry Bonds, slugging the hell out of the ball. So you have a huge home run totals. But then Ichiro would come along and he would be spraying base hits all over the field. And I know I've mentioned this before, but for infield hits, he has over 600 of them, which is incredible. But the most amazing statistic about this man is he's gotten a base hit when the ball has been 80 times he's done this, when the ball has been fielded by the second baseman, because of how fast and everything is. And so if you watch his swing, he ends up almost falling out of the batter's box when he swings, and so that's why he's in the left-handed box, and he ends up going to first base faster because it's 2 steps closer. So let me pause for a moment. Okay, so there's this, the year before, in 2016, he got the 3,000 hits. Now, the thing is, because of sort of institutional racism, he wasn't brought over to America until he was 26, 27, which is quite late in a baseball person's career. So for him to get 3,000 hits is incredible because his prime years were spent in Japan. And there's this question about whether or not because if you take his Japanese numbers and add them to his major league numbers, they end up being more than Pete Rose, who is the current hit king. And there's questions about how to deal with that. And because if you actually do the math and balance, because the Japanese leagues have weaker pitching but showed less games, that he would, if it was sort of balanced out, he would probably still have, like if he played his entire career in America, he probably still would have had more hits than Pete Rose. Okay, and so this issue of how to deal with other leagues and records, there's just this, I want to just very briefly mention this. There's this legendary player named Josh Gibson, who probably is the one who holds the record for the number of home runs in the season, because he allegedly he has 80. The thing is, that was in the Negro leagues, and we can't really prove it. So it's a little bit so like here's the thing about records, and with sort of culturally, is a lot of them are in doubt. Some of the like most celebrated ones are in doubt. Like Joe DiMaggio's 56 home runs and hits in 56 hits in a row. That's in doubt because he never faced Satchel Paige that year, who was probably the best pitcher at the planet on the time. Okay, I'm almost done. So Cubs and Culture out for the day. See you tomorrow.